that we see here today between FAV and T1. We're going to be loading into Bank very, very soon. We're just going to get through our operator bans to begin with. And it wouldn't surprise me to see a little bit of a focus towards those roamers potentially here on the bans. Somebody maybe like a Jackal ban or a Nomad ban just to try and facilitate that game a little bit. Hibana is going to be the first. Nod towards the Hatchers, no surprise there.
Absolutely. This is something Doki said to me back before it came in. He's like, all we're seeing at the minute is Hibana bans. No one wants to deal with her because of the number of Hatches available. She is the proclaimed queen of Hatches at this point, so you would see her brought along a lot were she available. But the ban's not too surprising. Thatcher to follow up. It's the go-to common ban across every single map at this point, not just for opening walls, but also for removing things like mute Mozzie setups, for dealing with anything through a wall, such as an ADS or a magnet being set up. Things that can inhibit your push forwards always tend to go away. And with that ban, normally you do see the pairing coming out with the Kaid. Otherwise, the only thing really left open to deal with it would be the Maverick. Sometimes left open, sometimes banned away. Here it is open. And the final ban is going to be the Mute. An interesting one to close it out.
It is interesting. Mute, not a ban that we see too often, especially after those nerfs. Obviously, the way that the Mute Jammer works now, it used to be sort of a cylindrical area of effect, if you will. So imagine the circle that it covers. It just went straight up and covered that entire area, no matter what point of height you looked at. So on a wall, for example, it would mute out the entire wall. That's been changed to a sphere now with the Mute Jammer at the centre. So as you can imagine, as you go higher up, there is less coverage as you get up there. So at the very top of a wall, for example, the top corners are susceptible still to being opened by, not in this case, X-Kairos pellets because Hibana's banned out, but still the Selmas particularly can do the job if they get up there in the corner. And then obviously once that reinforced wall is breached, nades can follow in, clear out the jammer. It's a much easier process than maybe it used to be, and since that we've not really seen too many bans on the Mute, but certainly wanting to avoid some denial there. I was just looking for the Flores pick or something potentially to come in to sort of, back that up. And when it's T1's banned, so maybe when they get onto the attack, we'll see that as part of their game.
I think it's quite interesting. They're only opting to bring along the 2 nades here on Shin with the Finker too. Most teams these days are running at least 4. Some are stepping up towards 6 with things like the Iana, the Sledge and the Maverick all in tow. But here it's just those 2 coming through instead, opting to play for the buck. A much safer choice, I think, on this map when you're not sure where people are going to play. Are you going to see any top floor defenses? We thought for the longest time the answer would be no. But then have seen numerous teams, Na'Vi, Kavana 2, that spring to mind immediately, defending the top floor and looking to cause a bit of havoc with some really good setups in the long corridor down towards the south. But already to start things off, you've got PJH holding out on the top floor on this Vigil. No surprises there. We spoke about the aggressive roam game that might come out from these APAC teams, and for now, I think at least it is just the one holding up here, and we'll see if he can get back to site safely once he's wasted a bit of time, or better yet, found himself a kill.
This is it. FAV need to take the opportunity to close him down here. Always difficult with the Vigil because you don't know exactly where they are. And out he goes, and there's the jump out. A beauty from PJH, but the question is, will he get himself back inside safely? Very unlikely as he starts to be challenged. He really does need to be finished off here. Of course, being constantly pinged as to his location. So there we go. Afro had every advantage, probably that he didn't need in that fight. We know how effective Afro can be in those one-on-one gunfights, but with that information on top, it was almost a certainty.
And someone probably asked, like, why the bloody hell is he doing that so soon? Why is he giving his life away at 30 seconds to go 1-for-1? Ultimately, as defenders, your gadgets are already down, you've done your rotates, your bulletproofs have been deployed, whatever. On the attacking side, they've now removed the 3 stims coming out from the Finker. They've removed the 2 frag grenades as well. Those are really strong bits of utility to have off the board because now all the pressure falls onto Afro with those impacts to deal with things like the Evil Eyes, potentially like the bulletproofs coming out too. There's just going to be a lot to worry about, I think, and I don't know if looking at, for example, at the shields they'll have because of the Chanka, they won't have enough to clear everything, so it's going to cause problems for them. So at face value, 1-for-1 in 30 seconds, not worth it. When you look at the implications later into the round, that's when it really starts to make sense.
Certainly could do. I mean, Vigil, one of his primary functions is to waste time, so it's going to be an interesting round to watch, Des. As you say, it's waste time, waste utilities, get a couple of kills if you can along the way, and we'll see whether that time factor does become an issue, because already FAV are able to start applying pressure to site. They've got just over a minute left, so plenty plenty of time left to go. They've got hatches open. They're in a position to really start making these defenders sweat a little bit. Legator's going to get himself down the blue stairs, look to open up the default plant spot with that exothermic charge, and out come the Shumiker launcher. That is going to start trying to prevent access to this area now, and with 15 canisters to go at, that is a good portion of time that can be burnt.
They need to kill Arakaze here. He needs to die, because if he stays along this line, it's only a small little default plant spot you've got just tucked inside this wall. That will burn away all day long, no problem. Sees two on the hatch, the smoke's start getting deployed, and they are going to go for this push. They need to unsettle the Chanka, and that's exactly what they want to try and do. But he's gone against the near side wall, going for the plant. They don't even know that he's on the near side here. Crazy Boy might have an idea, but no idea to be collected. A flank from Taipon gets a triple kill. No one watching on the south side of red. Crazy Boy comes back for 2, but he's in a 1 versus 2, and number 2 steps up to get off the final kill. That was a lot of numbers in the close, Ace.
A really nice element of that plant, Des. It's the sort of subtle thing that doesn't always get picked up on too much, and that was the amount of noise created when that plant was going down. The smoke canisters came in to prevent the lines of sight, but then there was just an absolute eruption in terms of the decibels being created by both teams, and it really did give the opportunity to mask exactly where that diffuser was going down, and as you said, just how close it was to that rotate into the red corridor. So very nicely played from FAV there, and we've got to look back to that opening kill from PJH. Now, it's something that we saw out of him on Villa last time around, jumping out, getting those really early aggressions in there, getting the thinker. I completely agree with you, Des. It could be pivotal to a round. You lose a lot of utility there. As it happened, it didn't have the impact they were hoping for, and it left FAV a lot of time then to get in there and to just make the lives of the defenders a misery. So I'm not saying it was the wrong thing to do, but I'm saying it maybe didn't pan out quite as hoped.
I think it's one of those things where, just because it doesn't work out doesn't mean it wasn't a good idea.
It's not the wrong thing, but it didn't work out.
I agree with it. That was the best case scenario. They catch the Fink and remove the nades, because that did force FAV to have to go for this really aggressive drop to pressure red. The big difference for me was that they didn't expect someone to come swinging through the smoke on the attacking side, and fairly so. Why would someone just run through smoke? It's not the done thing in any FPS title, but Taipon breaks that expectation, flanks in, gets to 3K. It's absolutely beautiful, and off the back of that, they win the round. So a little bit of a lapse in attention, should we say. Already one on the outside as well. That's just the charisma coming out from Arakaze, just to annoy them for a moment or two. Interesting that number 2 here is the one playing out far towards the the east side, where normally you're hanging out on the west car park. Of course, has changed in this current bank, with a lot of the windows now boarded up. Isn't the Terminator in car park that he once used to be, Ace.
We do see an awful lot of an awful lot of glass brought along, so it's a fascinating. I like to watch when we get different operators come in and just exactly how they use them, what sort of impact they have, and glass with the sniper rifles. Always a fascinating.
That's cool, but then look at what Medics has just flagged to us on the other side. A Boss ACOG, I think, coming out from PJH, and 2 ACSs. ACS 12s coming out of the Maestro and the Alibi. So we're back in that world, Ace. We're back in APAC land, where shotguns reign supreme, and for some reason the Boss G is actually a thing. Bikini Body is loving life right now.
Well, we did have the Hibana shotgun last week as well. We must remember, back in Playday 2. We'll see. And it worked out. JJ managed to put that to great use, so let's see if the same can happen here for T1. But if they do start to find themselves in those long-range engagements, then it could be trouble, although the Boss G ACOG does always have that potential for the one-shot, Des, but it's certainly not an easy one to find. I'm not trying to sell it, don't worry.
Please,
competitive level.
I remember a game last season where some guy was running around with it trying to one-tap people and kept failing on bankable places. Well, in fact, it was the start of this season. I was just like, can you not? And he's like, what? And I was like, you're aware that's a meme gun, right? And he's like, no, it's legit. I'm like, it's not. Look at what's happening. And speaking of which, it's Taipon pushing in to find Arakaze relatively early on here. Minute and 15 still to play with. The smoke is deployed, but the flank coming out from below from Fanxy on the smoke of all roaming operators to be in place.
Still you can eat those words, Des.
I mean, he's got all 3 smokes in back pocket here as well, so still lots to be able to deliver. 2 left for the side of FAV in a 3 versus 2.
PGH just finding him one in the melee there with the Boss G ACOG onto a headshot as well, nonetheless. Typon has the angle from stock, just trying to get himself a view into office there, but he's not going to catch anybody for the time being. Now he knows that there's a man at the top of main stairs. He can pre-fire this if he moves around, but he's not quite getting aggressive on it just yet. Afro is the one to find the kill with the headshot, and Banksy tries to cross into sight, shut down by Typon, and somehow FAV have managed to swing this around as it's 2 versus 1 now. They've got the advantage. It's going to come down to PJH. He's on his sidearm and he manages to find one, but location is known now. He hasn't taken that fight with the Bosch GA-Cog, has he? Switches over and gets the second. Unbelievable plays from PJH. 3 kills in the round between the Bosch GA-Cog and the SMG-12. Great plays from him.
That's definitely going to find its way onto the timeline later. I can't wait. Between the Cav interrogation in the last game, the Bosch G in this game, we're living for it. It is well and truly a clown fiesta. Tell us archives where we head to for round number 3. And that Finca staying present for the side of FAV. Clearly very much enjoying all that she brings with the new, well, not the new, it's obviously always been there. The health boost that it brings, the steadied recoil. I remember someone saying, I think it was Jess on the desk, that a number of pro players aren't that fond because they're so used to controlling recoil that when the reduction comes through from the Finca, it just completely throws you off.
Well, that's it. You're automatically pulling down, for example, to control your recoil, and all of a sudden you don't have any. So you find yourself shooting more towards leg and foot level than you might do otherwise. So yeah, it's certainly something that's got to be managed. Clear comms is the key there. You know, you've got to have a clear warning coming through that the Finca boost is coming, the nanobots are going to hit, and that the recoil is going to change. But I tell you what, Des, I just want to, you know, we've had a little bit of a joke about it there. PJH in the last round, obviously bringing the Bosch GA-Cog is... No, I'm not. It's not the point you think I'm going to make. You know, bringing that up, what the point I'm going to make is I'm going to just put a little bit of a spotlight on PJH and say he's actually been really fun to watch the last couple of play days.
Yeah.
You know, he was an absolute nightmare on Villa. He was very difficult to pin down. He was out of windows, he was throwing nitros, getting, you know, kills out of spawn. It was just... He's just been a very, very unpredictable player and very, very difficult to pin down. And, you know, hand in hand with that is he's very entertaining to watch.
He is. The one thing I'm really excited to see for T1 today, because although their defences were good and it kept teams wasting time around a map as big as Villa, and Bank equally is a very sizable map, on the attack is where they really struggled. They didn't really put together a coherent attack at all against Cyclops. So for me, seeing them on the attacking side in the second half of this map is the most exciting part. And equally, you can't take away from FAV. They're a team that we've criticised and said they've got some fantastic gunners, but the team play isn't always there. It doesn't look very structured. So there's lots to learn, I think, from these two teams still. Watching them play to see, are they going to adapt and evolve over the course of the stage? And most importantly for T1, can they get anywhere near escaping relegation? I think the answer quite resounding to that is no already at this point, given they've only had 1 win in 2 stages.
You can hear what is somewhat of an iconic sound coming out of that Bosch GA-Cog as PJH just peeks onto the windows, will not have any joy, and I wouldn't expect him to find too many more instant headshots with it, if I'm honest. At this sort of level, he's going to be shut down very quickly by players like Afro if he's going to engage them at a distance. Now, FAV have got themselves the top floor. That is now secure. They can take control of that and they can start thinking about moving down. They're, of course, attacking into Archives and Tellers this time around. So a couple of the T1 players just playing underneath at the minute. One of them is the Oryx of Arakaze, so will have the option of getting himself up through the hatch. Shin taking a real chunk of damage there, just trying to approach onto that Archives door, and FAV right now just struggling to find themselves an entry at the minute.
There's one thing to consider as well with the Bosch G. In 0 to 10 meters, it does 125 damage. The Finca, of course, giving a boost to everyone that will take them above that mark. So he's got to pray that he gets the shots that he needs to get the total finish off there, and then it's 80 damage, beyond that point, in case you're curious. It's good in close range when the Finca isn't active, and that's what I'm slightly nervous for, is will he be able to do enough damage in close range to finish someone off, because relying on that one-tap headshot, that's for montages, not really pro play.
Well, it's just the level of accuracy that's needed as well, and you know, we know how good the aim of these guys is, but you know, just being able to hit that absolute single shot under pressure can be difficult. But Fanksy, he's going to hit his shots with a headshot onto Shin. That takes down the Finca once again, just losing that utility before the execute point, before it can really be of too much value. And with 30 seconds left to go, FAV need to start finding themselves some kills here. They are behind in the man stakes. It's 4 versus 5. PJH has got himself back upstairs, and again, he's proving to be a nightmare. But that is the problem with the Bosch G ACOG. It's difficult to bring to bear in those short-range enclosures, and he does get shut down. But meanwhile, 2 of his teammates find 1 apiece, and we find ourselves now 2 versus 3 as number 2 rushes into sight. Legator's going to have to find 3 if he wants to do anything here, and that's going to be inside of 5 seconds. Is he going to take the option to get the diffuser down? There seems little point here, as he knows he's being hounded from both sides, and T1 managed to get themselves a second defensive round.
It's one of those, again, running out of time. It's almost a FAV trademark. In fact, a couple of teams in APAC North you could say the same about. Talon jumped to mind when I say words like that, but FAV especially are a team who, as we've mentioned, the team play doesn't always come together, but they had the right idea. The vertical control, the smoke inside of tellers, going in for the plant with the vertical cover. They just lost to that top level. They won the top floor engage, but lost to when it came to the execute. No cover coming through for the thermite, and it was an easy close down for the side of T1. 2-1 to them, and now we get to restart our rotation of sites, beginning on the downstairs with CCTV and lockers.
Last time around, this was a site that FAV were able to win. I won't say easily. They did need a little bit of adjustment. The Tachanka made it very difficult. Going to be brought along again by Arakaze. Made it very difficult to get the plant down in the default spot, so instead they decided to smoke out the rotate and the single door into CCTV, drop the hatch and put the plant down next to the wall instead, which we do see as an alternative plant spot, but with a lot of other things going on, a lot of moving parts at the same time, and it's maybe not something that FAV will quite get away with again. But one thing they need to be careful of this time is not losing that early man. It didn't impact them too much last time, but you don't want to keep taking those risks. You lose your thermite, you lose your ace. Could be a big problem.
This is the first round we've seen PJH step away from the vigil as well. The Bosch ACOG parked for now, but look at what he's stepping onto. It's going to be the Ying, and what traumatized them in that first attack? It was the smokes, it was the flashes, it was all these things that Warden can negate. It's about putting him in a safe position, being able to spray down when they drop through hatches, when they go for the plant. He could be pivotal to this round, but it does mean he needs to change his playstyle entirely here, not look to get off site and cause trouble, but play on site, be the anchor that is guaranteed to be alive when the execute comes in.
Got a lot of
as well.
A lot of renovations going on. That will help deal with a potential drop there. So that's just going to give the view of anybody dropping down and trying to get themselves inside a site. But as you said, for anybody who isn't familiar with Warden as an operator, not one that we see too often in the competitive scene, so you could be forgiven if you've maybe not picked him up yourself or used him at all. Has a gadget himself. It's some specialist glasses that he can pop on, and whilst he remains stationary, he'll be able to see through smoke. He can't be flashed, and it just keeps his visual game active, and just means that he can challenge in through those difficulties that may obscure other defenders.
Do you want any of those glasses, mate? Save you from flashing?
I don't. I think with the changes to the flashes, I could have done with it last night, Des. I felt the full force of it in Volton Villa, let me tell you that.
It was one of great pain. But we spoke about FAV speed, mind you, and looking here at the Chanka again, we saw how the burn came through, and they were forced to go for this smoke execute, essentially push in hard, push in fast, go for the plant, make a lot of noise around it. The clash is going to come in between, I think, mainly seeing what number 2 does with, of course, the Capital smokes, because that's where the reliance comes in for those, along with Lugator on the thermite, those being negated by the Evil Eyes potentially, and also by the Warden. So the prep work that they do around it, removing those Evil Eyes, for example, looking to unsettle PJH, that is also going to be crucial, and that's where I think the firebolts from the Capital could really come in clutch. You burn out red, it's already bright red, want to make it a little bit more glowy, and just try and push him away, because that will stop him getting the intel they need to be able to deny the plants.
PJH just suffering some effects there. I'm going to guess that came from the concussion grenades of Afro on the Zephyr. We're getting the hatches open, and FAV are starting to get themselves into a position to think about pushing onto site, and with 1 minute left to go, it's certainly about time to start doing so. But once again, there goes that Shumiker launcher.
I love how it's just like, fire it, get on cams, yeah, perfect.
Yep, that's it.
Hole
that's
in
the
one,
spot.
hole in one. It'll just keep on doing it time and time again now that he knows he's lined this up perfectly. Things being burnt out as we get into those final 40 seconds. You've got to look still. 11 canisters on side, all burning for a decent chunk of time. Does mean that he can sit here and just keep on doing this. 11's almost fearful of someone coming pushing down through garage still, despite having the Evil Eye behind him. And there's that smoke we mentioned.
I honestly cannot remember the last time I saw a Maestro without the Alder on side. Shin's going to find the opener onto Crazy Boy with a headshot, and here comes the smokes. Out comes the Nitro from PJH on the Warden, but he's not able to use his glasses at this point in time, so he is going to be smoked out it as well. 4 versus 3 as the kills start to rain in. A little bit of a bloodbath at the end of the round here, but Legator has the opportunity to get the diffuser down again, this time just inside of the door. He's going to make it stick, but it's not going to matter more than likely, as he's now 1 versus 3 unless he sees one. Can he get the other two? He gets one, he gets the last. Unbelievable plays from Legator. 1 versus 3 after getting the diffuser down. Des, I gotta say it, I don't know what T1 were doing there.
That was total unawareness of where he was planting as well. I figured they would know that he was by the door. The Warden was forced away by the firebolts coming out of the Capitao as we envisaged, but there's only so many places he can possibly plant. Like, you know he's in the room, just be careful about it. Don't feel the need to panic and run off in different directions and leave yourself completely lost. You can play it slow. You've got the advantage in that situation, and that is a round they will look back on at the end of this game and rue. A 1 versus 3 loss to the man that has just planted the diffuser. That's going to sting.
Lose this by a round, and that's exactly where you're going to be looking. You're going to be looking all the way back to round 4 and thinking, we had the opportunity. Because the thing is, as well, you've got to remember, for at least 3 or 4 seconds, I think, I'd say minimum 2 or 3 seconds, Legator in that 1 versus 3 was actively planting. You know, he wasn't even...
He knew he was there as well, and there's no call. The Warden's looking into Narnia, no idea what he's doing, and at least Fanksy's looking the right way.
That last shot was nice from him.
Yeah, that one I'll give to him. I think, I don't want to pile all the kind of blame on PJH there, but I have no idea where he was looking. They knew where he was because they were vaulting to challenge him. You had the one loss coming out the backside of lockers, so they knew where he was, but wasn't even looking to take a gunfight.
Maybe he needs some special glasses that allows him to see thermite.
Do you want to swap out those fancy ones and have some Specsavers glasses, mate? Sort you out.
Round number 5 then. We're going to be heading into 2 on the scoreboard at the minute, and nothing really to separate these two teams. They've both had big moments, both had big rounds. PJH coming in with a big round back in round number 2 and 3. He went pretty well, but there Legator able to close it out. And it's something that we're seeing out of Legator a little bit more and more so far as the weeks pass by and we get more familiar with him as a player. We know that he's a player with big clutch capability. I think of his Kaid plays on Chalet, if you remember back in play day 1. He really did announce himself, and now he's showing that he's able to do that consistently with players like that. Very cool under pressure there.
You asked where it was in the previous round. Where's the Flores? And they've been listening to you, mate. They've got it in the background. They listen to what's being said. They know that you call for the Flores, and number 2, the one now bringing that along to help them remove these gadgets that otherwise have traumatized them. Let's not forget again, only 2 frag grenades on side. The reliance is on those and on Afro with the Zofia. So as their kind of flex picking here, we've seen him play a lot of things. Buck, Glaz, Capitao, now the Flores. It's all about the destruction of these gadgets, and if they can remove more and more of those cams away, the bulletproofs are removed, for example. There aren't any in this round, for example, but there are Evil Eyes, of course. There are shields to concern yourself with. He can do a lot of prep work for FAV here that they've struggled with historically.
Well, you've just lost a ton of information there in those 2 Maestro cams. Legator's going to be able to get in and open up the breach as well. So pretty soon, FAV are going to have reasonable control over site here. They've got 2 playing on the windows. I can't see anybody going for the jump out to try and deal with that after PJH did it earlier in the game. They're going to know that FAV are likely to be prepared for that. So it just really feels now like FAV are trying to locate the last man or 2, get a kill, open things up, and they're going to be going in for plant very, very soon. Arakaze has been down there, not finished off yet, but I'm not sure anybody's going to have an opportunity to pick the alibi up. And now, 2 versus 2 with, 5 versus 5 with 1 minute left to go. Legator gets in and starts getting that diffuser down. As easy as that. As easy as that, Des.
That is crazy. They've got away with it because now they've got the window
And now
play.
he's just led down behind the desk.
They're going to have to go through something absolutely mental here to make this one work out. Crazy Boy gets the swing and opts not to revive Arukazi. Will bleed out. That's the 3K coming through incredibly quickly for the side of FAV. They've got away with the plant. They're back out on the rappel as mentioned. They've still got one down in main lobby as well to come up for a play if they need it, but he can chill out. It's a 1 versus 4, and FAV have stolen this round away from T1 in rapid style as they get the closeout. Round number 5 going their way, and that is 3 attacking rounds on bank for FAV.
Smart play from Legator there, because what he did, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying, he didn't actually open the breach up. We saw him on the wall, ready to breach. Ready to breach, and then there was a bit of an audible call. It was a bit of a shift of, actually, don't breach. We've got control over site. We don't need the long lines of sight that's going to offer us. Just get out of the window, rappel over, and going quietly. And T1 had absolutely no idea the diffuser was going down. And as soon as they tried to challenge, there's 2-3 on the windows at a point. They can't win without somebody going out of the windows at that point.
I think they realised Arakazi was down because he was the key of that defence, really, right? They smoked off all the other angles. They stopped any kind of push coming through, except for that thin strip that leads out towards Banana. That was the only real angle of contest that could come through. And FAV had someone playing inside a lobby to watch that angle in the first place. So they had everything covered. The smoke's doing most of the work for them. But with Arakazi down and Janitor, there was no one to contest, and you saw exactly how the round played out. So really smart from FAV, I think, to identify that opportunity, as you mentioned, and not opening the breach.
Think back to the early Flores work as well. So there was a Maestro cam and Evil Eye placed on the painting behind the desk, but there was also one exactly where 11 has just placed it now, which is the one that I want to talk about. And that is the one that would have spotted out the Thermite. That is the one that would have seen the Thermite going for plant. So T1, banned mute. The Flores drone is able to get into sight without challenge, nice and easy. In it goes, clears out the Maestro cam, which could have been key in recognising exactly what was going on because they didn't have the sound cues. There wasn't necessarily that panic of, right, the breach is open, and you start to go into that mindset of the plant might go down. It was just well played from FAV. It was opportunistic. They managed, once they'd got those cams cleared out, they just saw the opportunity and they took it, and I love it.
It's just been really cool seeing the changes, I think, in setups as well, where the Finker got dropped away and the Sledge has been brought for the last 3 rounds. Just in the Flores and the last 2 replacing the Capital, the Glaz and the Buck. Just small tweaks where we're very used to seeing attacking lineups being basically identical for most teams around the world throughout an entire half. It's sort of a cover-all comp, whereas here there's more active work, guessing, okay, this needs to change because of this site, therefore let's bring this along instead. It's just good seeing that adaptation coming in, I think.
Shin will get pinged out as he hits the alibi decoy there, but there's no active challenge going to come onto him. PJH, however, will find a challenge onto Afro, and he's going to find a headshot. So that is now advantage to T1, and it's something that they've done well so far, is getting those entries and getting themselves an advantage in the early round. And going to be Zofia that goes by the wayside. Not necessarily essential utility anymore, but still extremely useful and a big loss. So at 1 minute 10 into the round, we've got 1 dead, 5 versus 4, and T1 looking a little bit more comfortable than they did last round.
Oh, we've been here before, though. Think back to round 1 with PJH's jump out, right? Shutting them down in the initial one. I mean, yeah, sure, it's 5 rather than 4 for the side of T1, but FAV have played from that behind position already where they'd lost such crucial utility, their only way of destroying things like Evil Eyes, and still managed to walk away with the round win. 11, the one being challenged here from distance, still playing on that ACS. Obviously not the best for long range, and it's Fanxy that gets finished off here. Shin bringing that back to the 4 versus 4 with 80 seconds still to play.
We see 11 just picking up a few extra HP there as he obviously runs through a Thunderbird corner station. So that's just going to give him a little bit more of an ability to fight into the late round here. But PJH, he gets spotted down underneath in Archives and almost gets finished off himself, and it's unlikely that there's going to be a corner station down there for him. He's going to have to wait until he can return to site if he wants to find any of those HP back, but he is still in main lobby looking to try and deal with these repels that were so deadly last time, and it's not something that FAV have necessarily actively dealt with. They're allowing him to play in that area, and that could be risky when Legator has the diffuser in hand.
I want to give a quick raise as well to the ammo counts on the Maestro and the Alibi. You can see how much work he's been doing on the transformation. Not that it means anything, it's all for naught. Finished off by Lugator, who's now in that prime spot to get himself through the breach and look for a plant. PAGH, the one going off on the move, juiced up ever so slightly by that corner station. Flashes come through, smokes come through, there's no real response, but because the breach is open that you alluded to last round, Ace, they can get some shots coming back in. Crazy Boy finds one more. 11 back onto Lugator, that's the diffuser down with 15 seconds to play. FAV have got to pull something out the bag here and now. It's number 2 on the crouch walk, sees the man, gets down, one more swing coming through. It's 11 stepping up in the 1 versus 1 and wins it at the end. Gets the closing 2 kills, and T1 balanced the half out at 3-3. As now we get to see how they fare on their attack.
Big round from 11 there, exactly what T1 needed just to try and level things up at the half and make sure that they weren't going in behind, because that would have been a tough fight to fight coming in here 4-2 down to FAV when FAV go onto the defence. So even Stevens so far, and a big round for PJH there as well. We can't discount that. As you said quite rightly, Des, he was the man that was just coming in and making that challenge onto the plant spot. And once you've got that breach open and the smoke comes down, you can just pepper bullets through there because you know roughly that is where the push is going to be coming. That's where the diffuse attempt is going to be coming down. And that's why they got away with it last time, because they didn't have those big key signals there shouting, we're going for a plant now. But this time around, they didn't have too much of an option because you don't get away with those those things time after time. It's a one-time thing quite often. So heading into the second half then, FAV move on to the defence this time. They're going to go up to the top floor, and they will be straight away into CEO, which is the site we've just seen for the last couple. No Flores on the side of T1. They do have the Twitch. I'm just interested in that mute ban, you see, and just exactly how it's going to play. And obviously there is an element in terms of the denial of breaching. It is going to make it a little bit easier for them to breach, but number 2 has brought the bandit along, so that is still going to be in place. But they're going to have to be very actively aware of those Twitch drones coming in.
If Eleven's not rocking the new wildcard skin, I'll be livid.
It's very nice. I've got to say, I've said it on my Twitter, I'll say it here as well. I like all of the share scheme skins anyway, but the batch that have just come out, there's some absolute beauties in there.
I'm not really a big cosmetic spender. I never have been. You know, several thousand hours in a well-known MOBA, spent barely any money on it. Siege has been much the same. Then I saw those and I was like, oh no,
let's go.
My credits. What's happening? They're going down, and I don't know why.
I bought a bunch of them last night.
I had to grab 4. They're just so cool, and that one especially is a big key one. And I've got to mention as well the small changes to Twitch does, of course, now have 3 drones. You get the normal one in the prep phase, and you get your main 2, the electric ones, or the zappy ones that can now jump, of course, in the main phase. So if you are coming back to Siege after a brief while, you may have missed that one. Does make her, I think, much more effective because they can jump. They're now lasers at longer range. The F2 is still a great gun, gets 3 drones. It's quite a big buff in my opinion.
It is. It's been transformative, I think, for the Twitch gadget and also for Twitch's pick rate. We've certainly seen it being brought along.
Look at him.
This is it. This is something you could never dream of doing with a Twitch previously. They need to be very careful though, because there you go. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful play from 11 on the Twitch drone there. Just really finessing that shot. But you know, this is something. I love to see it. Look at this, just one gadget after another, and he really is putting it to maximum use. Going to clear that off eventually, but I'm just going to say there you go. They've managed to get the wall open, and that's what they wanted. It just gives that angle down past vending machine and makes it difficult for FAV to defend in that area. Second Selma going on, just telling you how important that is. It's going to be a full east side push here from T1, which is somewhat unorthodox.
Shin's down, but I don't think they know this as well. They're committing the firebolts into it. They've had a couple of things eaten up by those magnets. A grenade came through and fell short as well. Number 2's kind of trying to bait him out here and say, look, be the bait for me. Let these guys push up and I'll try and find us a kill or 2 when they come for the push in. I think just about narrowly evades the man near the front side, but they know he's on banana. He's being pressured from deeper lobby, and the longer range one will come in. Crazy Boy on the window finds the kill, and that'll be enough to get them moving up towards the front of lobby here. 4 versus 3, for T1. Arakaze into the second in the round, and only Lugator and Afro stand with 50 seconds remaining against 4 players from T1. Oh, shot.
I was going to say falling apart very quickly for FAV, but a big kill on the windows. Aggression from Legator there to play right up against that barricade and manages to shut the man down, but he gets in turn traded out quite late there, but the headshot comes in nonetheless. Afro with an absolute beauty on the long angle onto Crazy Boy. He just rips him off the rappel. The diffuser is down, but it's not necessary that Afro's aware of this. He's going to take an awful lot of damage there. He's challenging on into sight, but 20 seconds left to go. There is no option for T1 to really get back to sight. They have sent somebody. 11 does have it in hand. It would have been very close for him to get back up there and into a position to put it down on the ground, but it's all irrelevant as Arakaze finds the long angle through onto Afro, shuts him down. That's going to be T1 taking their first attack.
Yeah, and 3k for him in the round as well for Arakaze. Good stuff. And enough to get T1 their first attack, which is promising signs, because again, we mentioned last week that for Cafe, oh man, it was a mess. There's no other way of describing it. Incredibly slow, didn't know what they were doing in some rounds. It was the most painful picture of, we've got 20 seconds left and we've rotated ourselves twice during this round. We're not sure where we want to attack from. Let's just run in and hope for the very best. And as you can imagine, that doesn't work out very well for most teams. This one, though, much more structured. Really good work from 11 to get rid of those bandit batteries on the double wall, enabling the Crazy Boy and Ace to get the angles down towards the long white corridor. And from there, they could do a little bit of work, and 2 left alive at the very end of the round. Let's see how things shape up on the downstairs, though, because generally top floor is considered the easier to attack. This one, a little bit harder.
Fairly standard defensive lineup. We've got the Tachanka coming along. The big difference here from what T1 did is that Taipon has the Echo in hand as well. Instead of quite often we were seeing the Maestro bringing along that information utility. This is a fantastic shot from Afro as he steps across. Knows exactly where, there you go, knows exactly where the man is going to be. Ultimately, it wasn't enough in the round, and he was closed down shortly after that by Arakaze, but it was still a nice kill nonetheless, as impactless as it might have ended up.
Pretty good example, I think, of crosshair placement as well. Didn't have to flick or do anything overly creative. It was just keep on moving and they'll fall into your crosshairs. Bing! Easy kill to come through. Let's look at the changes coming in here, because we've had a couple of spicy picks coming in, I think, in this round ace compared to what we saw back in the first half. The Monty being number one, but on the other side, you've also got Taipon stepping in on the Echo. An operator that you tend to see on maps like Cafe more often than not, especially with teams like Empire popularising it for the most part over in Europe, but not one that we see all that much in APAC, to be fair. I think although it's very, very valuable, a lot of teams just not opting to bring it in their lineup.
Absolutely, the Yokai drone's just going to be coming through there, being positioned to give the view that is needed onto that default plant spot for the time being. And we've got T1 doing a lot of vertical work here just to try and make sure that they can close out and deal with blue stairs, get the control that they need before they start pushing down into the servers area. We've got Afro, interestingly, just still deploying barbed wire. We're a minute into the round and the Jaeger's still sort of on a semi-setup, really, looking to get the barbed wire down on the main stairs. Could have been a relocation, potentially. May well have moved it out, depending on where the early push was coming from or where they thought that attention was going to come from. And Afro's going to settle himself in at the bottom of elevators for the time being. Goes chasing drones, just going to clear out that information utility. But right now, T1, they're not looking to push down too aggressively just yet. They're getting the hatches.
Absolutely, no rush so far. You've got yourself in a good spot. The fact they're committing both of the... Maybe it's going to see Selma's come down inside of server, I'm not too sure. Fanxy's no rotated away from the main stairs. I think they're more as an escort, if nothing else, as well, to make sure those hatches got opened up with no problems. They got both, the elevator one, they got themselves the one here inside of open area. There's still one more to go through, so... I don't know, one Selma, like... Okay, it's a reliance on it. I mean, there's no real reason why you wouldn't be able to get it open, but you're leaving yourself one Selma to maybe get open the server wall. Maybe that's not going to be their play. Maybe they want to go for a drop on the backside.
I don't think they're going to open it. I think you've got PJH just sat on top of the hatch into CCTV right now. I think they're looking to get control and possibly just drop straight through there and put the plant down next to the wall, the same position that we saw Legator do it in the first attack in round 4 FAV. But surely they're going to have to be aware of that. PJH is actually rotated away, yes. They're just trying to draw all eyes in towards Fanxy on that Monty there. He's going to take a lot of damage from the Shumika launcher. He needs to be careful here because he doesn't have an option but to move through it. So he's going to back away into server, and that might just allow FAV the room that they need. Shin finding the opener onto Arakaze, and that is going to start us off here. 5 versus 4 now in favour of the defenders, and Afro, he just feels a little bit uncomfortable there. He's moving around. He knows he's going to be pressured from main stairs, and that is where the weight of this push must come from as PJH is coming down, has the diffuser in hand, and that's an absolute freebie for Afro, who's playing on the tight angle. We do see Taipon down in garage, and that leaves us effectively 3 versus 2 now as Crazy Boy gets downed. It is a matter of time. 3 seconds left to go. Very little that can be done here with the diffuser down on the ground, and it's played out by Afro, and that's going to be a FAV round.
I hate it as well because that was a really cool idea coming out of T1, but again, characteristically to what we've seen in previous weeks, just not leaving enough time to get the work done. The focus on those main stairs, they had 11 pushing down to the lower side of white stairs at about 2 minutes to play with.
Honestly,
and yet still they sat on those stairs for an extra 80 seconds, 80, 90 seconds or so and did nothing.
I can't say as I like it. I can't say as I like it, Des.
I can't say as I like it.
I really can't. You've got sorry, not Legator. You've got the Thermite coming down the stairs with diffuser in hand. PJH it was, coming down the main stairs on his own with diffuser in hand. Just having to move through barbed wire. I don't know what you're expecting there because he's got shut down by Afro. Diffuser's down in no man's land. 15 seconds left to go. You've lost the round at that point, and I don't know. I don't think it was ever really going to be a successful way of getting that diffuser down onto site in a way that you can plant it. You know, if you're going to go down main stairs, you need more manpower coming down there. You can't have the diffuser just sort of hovering in no man's land on his own because it's going to be a problem. You're asking for exactly what happened, and so no, I think you need slightly more weight of numbers. I just don't think the distraction worked. I don't think the Monty in CCTV was maybe as big a focal point as they expected. Because of the Tachanka, it was just like, yeah, it's no problem, I'll just fill the place with Shumikers, it's fine. He's going to have to go out, he'll go out or he'll die. And then it left the other 4 players to just keep their eyes everywhere else.
Fresh is going to be rattled at the fact there's a Rook on this team. You know what he's like in our stack? He's like, I don't see the point of Rook.
He's very angry about it.
He is. He gets really upset about that.
Absolutely fuming.
Absolutely rattled. So many words to describe such an angry man. Let's see how this round shakes out, though. Zero stepping in. This is a pick that a few teams around the world have used at points. Never really consistently. I'd say like you lean towards Dark Zero. Mantis, back when they were known as Cloud9, had a stretch of using it for a while as well. But it hasn't really stuck. Teams have kind of veered away from it over time.
Got a lot of information on both sides of the coin here. We've got PJH bringing along the Zero, which is not one that we see too often, but he's going to have those SAM cams that he can deploy in and around and just try to feed information into the attackers. But by contrast to that, we've also got the Valkyrie in a shape of Afro on the side of the defenders, using the black eye cams to just try and feed as much information into the defenders as possible. Now 11, that's a nice little cam there that's just going to cover off that main stairs and offer any information on any potential rotates there. 11 going in with the Twitch drone again, proving his worth with that so far today. He'll take out a default cam, but Legator, more importantly, will take out the sledge of Arakaze. Struggle to say that name quickly. Arakaze.
Arakaze. Yeah. Break it down into 3 syllables.
It's only when I say it quickly.
Or 4.
Just don't come out. Right?
Yeah. We'll get there with it.
We will.
The Gun 6 popping open that castle that was currently holding out towards the kitchen side of things. I was really surprised that we had the bandit tricking as well, so close out towards the kind of lone office wall, like being willing to hold for that long, which is why he had 11 putting his focus down there. But what I'll give to number 2 is he has wasted a bucket load of time for his team. T1 having to force and deal with him means they can't focus so strictly on the attack that they wanted to, and now they're getting a shimmy on out towards square side, getting the castle opened up, for example, looking up towards these vertical angles, all the things they need to orchestrate this attack. But number 2 is still in the elevator, and I'm not too sure they know.
Thanks for feeding information back onto exactly what's happening inside of open area there. But fortunately for T1, they do have the utility that they need to get the vertical angles. Having lost the sledge of Arakaze early in the round, it could have been a lot worse than it was, but Taipon steps out and gets the kill onto PJH, and once again, Des, that diffuser is down in no man's land. It's starting to pain me. You can't keep dropping it in locations where it's difficult for your team to go and retrieve it. 11 taking serious damage there. He's actually on the DMR of Twitch rather than the F2, which will disappoint you, Des. You won't be seeing the wildcard skin on there. It is on the F2. The final kills come in. Afro, Legator, they close out the last men on the cafeteria door, and FAV, they've looked a lot more comfortable in the last couple of rounds. T1 just seem to be losing their focus a little bit here.
I think that's the best way to describe it, right? They knew about the bandit. There was never really any press. They thought, I guess we just leave this cam here and watch if he tries to rotate back in sight, and that'll be enough. But you mentioned about the diffuser going down in these places where it really shouldn't be and left isolated. This is the sort of stuff we refer to when we talk about teams like T1, like Talon, these lower ranking teams, especially the Korean teams, it feels like, just kind of petering out on the attack. It never really hits that big epic boom in the final 30 seconds like you saw from FAV back in the first half with constant smoke executes coming out. For T1, you just don't see that in the final 60 seconds or so, and it's leading to a lot of lost rounds. They've now fouled behind FAV. It's 5-4 to the Japanese team, and you could easily see them cruising forward to a victory here.
You said it back last week, and you said, oh, we're going to see it again today. T1 on the attack. They didn't have really a coherent attack last week, and I think that's the word here. It's coherence. It's what are you doing? What, and I don't mean, I know that sounds quite flippant when I've said it, but I don't mean it in that way. What I mean is, as a team, what is your focus? Where is the point that this diffuser's going down, and how are you going to gain control of that area? Whereas it feels for T1 over the last couple of rounds like you've got a man over here, a couple of men over there, you've got the diffuser coming in somewhere else, and everybody just seems to be playing a little bit disconnected from each other. And what it's doing is leaving them in situations where the diffuser is just down in no man's land, and they can't really go and retrieve it because there was nobody there to play off that death, to impact on it, to trade from it. And so I think, yes, that's something that T1 need to be working on here, is the coherence of the attacks and the way that they're working together as an attacking unit.
I get the intent as well of Fanks. He's doing the same thing again, right? He's kind of being the bait for his team, but here actually followed in by 2 or 3 players, and they've hit them hard on the rush in. A kill very early on. Lugator, the one being that's falling, and PJH hesitating slightly, but they can get this plant down. The wall is indeed soft, but all of FAV have been caught completely unawares. Afro's on the downstairs. 2 or 3 are far out towards the side. Arakaze holding the flank, and they get the plant down. FAV just not prepared for the rush, and a good adaptation coming out of T1 so far.
Interestingly, Des, as I said it, T1 come into a round with a clear focus of where the diffuser's going down, when it's going down, and who is going to support it. And all 3 of them push into sight, confidently get the kill that they need, 11 opening it up for them, and then they're able to get that diffuser down. And it doesn't get lost somewhere. They've got the cover that they need. It was much better worked. You're not always going to get away with a rush. Of course not. FAV are going to be ready for it in, in consecutive rounds, but ultimately that was better from T1 because there was a focus at least. It was all working together to get that diffuser into one place. We know where it's going, we know where it's going down. I felt like they had that idea there, which I don't think they did in the previous rounds.
No.
Or it didn't look like they did. I'm sure they did, but it just didn't come across that way.
What I will give is when there's no stiff resistance, it is easy for it to look simple, right? Like, open the wall, crouch walk your way in, plant. You got the Monty providing cover as well. And as mentioned, 4 members of FAV were nowhere to be seen. They had 3 out towards the west. They had Afro down in basement. Just no one around the site itself for any kind of denial play coming out. So good enough on T1 side to identify that. But for FAV, they'll chalk that down as okay, look, we just got caught with our pants down there. We didn't expect that. It's caught us. Let's not let it happen again. So we'll see where we step to in the next round.
I love that T1 have taken the opportunity to do that. There's obviously been information come in for them that has just said, look, site's free. We can get into staff room. There's nobody in there to challenge us. Let's just get in there and do this. And I love that they've made that call. I love that they've gone together. They've used everything has come together well there. And I like to see it for T1. I've been critical of them over the 2 attacking rounds previous to that, and I like to see that they've got it in the locker because this T1 side is becoming more and more competitive. We're at 5-all now, and this isn't the first week that we're at 5-all. They're getting more competitive. They're not that team that's getting rolled over 7-1 every week now, and I prefer to see that. I want everybody in the league to be competitive.
The big fear, of course, for T1 is that it's come too little, too late.
Yes.
They are basically guaranteed to be in a fight for relegations. However, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be using Stage 3 to prep yourself for
Absolutely.
that. You've got to have that war, but you can still survive and have that fight against. I think it's the number 1 seed from Japan, the number 2 from Korea fights it out, and the winner of that game faces off against whoever's in 8th place, and then it's the reverse, whoever fights off against 7th place. So it's quite clear-cut this time around as to how things are going to play out, but I am liking the improvements I've seen from them so far in this season. My only concern is you've got some big teams potentially waiting for them in those lower leagues. Looking towards the team whose name I've already forgot, Sengoku Gaming from Japan. They are looking phenomenal, 2nd rate in the Japanese league. I would be a little bit nervous about it if I was T1, but this is why you've got these weeks to start getting it right.
Oh, it's an extremely competitive national scene, as you say. Those relegation matches for APAC North, particularly, I think are going to be some of the toughest in the world. Honestly, going into, I think they really are for the tier 1 teams that are going to have to play them. I think they are going to have some of the biggest challenges going in there. So yeah, it's not going to be easy for T1. And as you say, it is nice to see that they're starting to find a little bit of a stride. They just need to try and find a more consistent approach to their attacks, whereby they're working together as one unit, 5 fingers, 1 hand, and coming together and not losing that diffuser in bad areas.
11's breaking my heart. DMR every single round. I was like,
you just want to see that wild.
I just want to see he's got the skin. I mean, fair enough. Black Eye's cool too, but is it the wildcard skin? No. That's what I want to see. Let's see how this one shapes up, though. Echo and the Chanka back on side, so all about that more late-round denial focus coming in for them. The Smoke also stepping up on side, with the Aruni kind of doubling up as that utility denial alongside the Jaeger rather than something like a Wamai. Other side, still seeing T1 lean very heavily on the Monty. Worth mentioning the time that it has worked has been when players have played around it. They're not leaving him as a solo flanker because it's like you can keep half an eye on him. You know that he's not a super strong threat. He will feed information back and forth, but your fear has to be when there's a player following him behind him. Last round was the first time that T1 did that, so we'll see if they double down on it again or if he'll go back to being this solo bolo roamer.
11 once again on the Twitch drone. We've seen him putting this to great use. I've commented on it a couple of times. He's certainly using the new functionality with the jumping and the longer distance laser shooting, and he's clearing out a lot of utility for his team. And T1 just taking full advantage of the fact that those mute jammers are not present to prevent it from being denied, but FAV able to get the shot onto it this time and clear it off the main stairs. Now, once again, the pressure seems to be coming towards the hatches. PJH is going to open one up. I'm not sure if he's going to get downstairs to open that CCTV wall or not. The two Selmas go on to the smaller rooms hatch, and that's going to be the direct access into site for Fanxy potentially. He's got diffuser in hand, but this time, yes, they are opening CCTV. And Des, look at what they're doing. T1, they're all working together. They're pushing down blue stairs. They've got control of server. They've got the wall open. They are in a much better position. They don't have, for example, this time the diffuser pushing down main stairs on its own. It's all there. It's ready. The pieces are good to go.
But let's give a nod to FAV as well. Look how defensively they're playing. There is no one playing inside of red, as I say that number 2 steps in, but they're sitting so far back out of fear from grenade spam coming through, the flash is being burnt, the smoke's coming in, whatever. They're playing it very carefully, and they'll step out now once the smoke starts going through. Arakaze stepping in. You got Fanxy going in, back to the red rotate as well, so they should be able to kill him for free on this one. He gets down, burning in a blaze of glory coming out of number 2. That's him down with 15 seconds to play. One more picks it up. Arakaze going in for the plant, but have they got the cover to keep this one going? 2 seconds left. Is he going to burn? No, he's not. The plant gets stuck, and it's a 3 versus 3. They might have just done enough. 11, being the wonder kid that we know he can be, finds himself 2 hit, gets up to 11 kills, and an almost beautiful bit of poetry, and they should be able to close the round out. Number 2 and Shin have got all the work to do, but they've got to reclaim upstairs, Ace. That's not so simple. Shin's going to push his way up, hoping to find a man, sees the one, but loses the gunfight. It's a triple kill for 11, and number 2 sat there like a sad little man with that Shumaka launcher, can all do nothing except sit and watch as the air before him has no one present, and he should get killed from the hatch. Finds himself 1, will not be able to find the rest. There are 2 seconds left. T1 get the close down and move up to match point.
Great from T1, and that just gives the perfect example of what I'm saying there, Des. The planter goes in, Fanxy dies, does not get the diffuser down, but it's in a position with the team around him supporting that Arakaze can then just move in, pick the diffuser up and try again. And that's what we want. That is what T1 need to be achieving. It was much more coherent, much more teamwork, and much more everybody pulling in the same direction. And they get the round on the board and get themselves on to match point. T1 have got a real opportunity here to take themselves a big win and to really start building some confidence within the team.
These last couple of play days are not helping average rounds cast per game. They're all going to 12 or overtime. It's one of those things that just seems to follow us. But it does show, if nothing else, it's a very, very competitive global circuit that we've got right now. So many teams coming down to the wire into overtime, if not all the way to full-time regulation. This could be one of those where, well, at the end of this round, we'll know if there are 3 more potentially to play or if it ends here in victory for T1. We head upstairs into CEO and Exec Lounge, where we saw T1 back in round 7 walk away the victor. We haven't seen it played since then, so hopefully this time round is going to be a repeat for them and they walk away 7-5. Although, again, it wouldn't do much to save their relegation woes, it still gives them a lot of confidence moving forwards that finally things are going in the right direction.
I mean, you touch on it there with the, the global community that we've got of teams, and honestly, I think we're getting towards the point now whereby you can look at it and say, there's almost any 2 teams in the world that you can pick up, and on the day you're going to get a nice even matchup. You're not too far away from that point. I'm not saying necessarily just yet that everybody could compete with everybody, but we certainly aren't very far away from that point.
The shield setup here is one that we saw Na'Vi employ the other day. I haven't got a photographic memory, but I do remember Jess bringing up about 20,000 images of different setups that we'd seen here. But this one worked really, really well for Na'Vi, because I remember saying the one player inside, I think it was Saves that was playing inside of Janitor, it was secretly playing out on behind the shield. As soon as Save stepped away from watching Square from Janitor, as soon as he pulled away to move south, secretly his attention moved from stock straight on towards Square. And it was just very good pinpoint to the second communication coming out of the teams, and it was really good to see. Interesting long-range cam coming out from the Zero, by the way, all the way back out to the north side of the map, ridiculously far away, just to give them, I think, overall coverage of any windows being broken open, to enable them to see what is going on.
I love the Valkyrie cams that you can get on Bank. There's some absolute
so
beauties and very difficult to find inside of the lobby because there's just so many places. But you're always conscious of being challenged from Banana, for example, that you don't want to stand staring around at the pillars and columns for too long trying to find them. But right now, the aim of T1 has been accomplished. pushed initially, and that is to get that wall open that's going to allow them to look down through Kanto onto the vending machines. Crazy Boy on the rappel again. I'm sure he's going to pray that he doesn't get hit with a shot like Afro managed previously. He's not going to be wanting to see any more of that action. That was back in round 7. It was an absolute beauty, but T1 was still able to get that round. Now Fancy looking to push up aggressively past Banana, looking to get himself in towards Office just to start feeding information as to the locations. As he does that, number 2 is going to take a couple of shots of damage, not too much but a little chip, but manages to find an even bigger chip onto PJH as he hits him with the nitro, just detonates, and destruction reverberates through the server after that one with the 0 going down.
I'm kind of surprised that the smoke's coming in twice now into this mirror and they haven't just walked up to it and punched it. I know it's still a bit of a risk, but getting that out the way means that the effects of that smoke last much longer. Fancy's pushed his way up, another smoke comes through. They're taking a leaf out of Fav's book from the first half where you just smoke everything and push in, but it's a bit scattered. There isn't really any action taking place off the back of these smoke grenades going down, so it's all too easy for Fav to hold ground. Arakaze finds one back, the C4 coming through, and here we go. Typon on the swing finds Arakaze over the top of it, and we'll bring one back. 11 still lurking with this DMR inside, is waiting for someone just to step into the wrong angle so he can take a snap at the skull and bring him down to the ground. Knows about the man to his right, knows about one playing on long desk, and here he goes on the step through. He'll see him, he might step up. No, still nothing coming back the other way. And finally, Shin gets one back. It looks to be a shutout for Fav. Overtime guaranteed at this point, it feels like, as Crazy Boy finds one more, but it's a 3v1 with 10 seconds to play, Ace. Overtime is guaranteed.
Absolutely. At this point, we see the seconds ticking away. There comes the challenge from the Wama. Crazy Boy manages to win it out, but it's going to be nothing more than stat padding at this point. Shut down by Shin as he moves around from the janitor angle, and that is going to be us heading into overtime between Fav and T1. And what a match we've had so far. It is really one of those that you just want to watch go on and on as these two battle against each other.
Whew. It was one of the games we all looked at, and I think we were very split. It was me, Fresh, and Jess who thought that T1 would walk away the winner, everyone else going towards Fav. And I think they're both teams that are really hard to, predict at the moment. Fav, this team that, as we always say, are kind of they're the benchmark of your needed gun skill or your required gun skill, I feel, to be able to compete in APAC North. They've got some prolific gunners on their side, but have struggled with that teamship element in the past. T1, on the other hand, have been this team that have been down in the dumps for the longest time, reformed their squad, had a good couple of days, but still not fantastic results. So it was kind of it's the clash of two unpredictable moments that you're just not quite sure what the outcome is going to be. And personally, overtime is what this match deserved, given that close nature of the two teams, the unknowns that surrounded it the whole way through.
Heading back up to the top floor then, not too much of a surprise. Fav just doubling down after managing to find round number 12 up here. They're going to go on the defence once again, and that might just suit them down to the ground. But you can look on the flip side of that and say that T1, they've got the opportunity to just tweak what they did last time. They can work out what went wrong and where, and they can come back with a different approach, see if they can get a different outcome.
Talk about time to make a big change, by the way. They've gone back to the Capitale that we saw them bring for one round and one round only. That was in round 7. Otherwise, things mostly looking how they have before. The Zero and the Thermite being interchangeable throughout as well. Let's not forget how the basement attack worked out last time. They had this big focus on White Stairs the first time round. Completely failed. Then they changed it up and went more standard, went for a server push, and managed to make that work. So surely here, you're looking at this top floor and thinking, okay, the lobby take is kind of cool. The smoke she didn't really act on, unfortunately, so nothing came off the back of it. Is a more standard take here coming out towards the east, getting control of Square, for example, and playing off the windows, going to be their big priority.
We've got the Wama just playing in that difficult position outside of stock as well. Again, something that's going to need to be cleared out by T1. A lot more attention this time over to the Square Skylight side of things. They have been pushing through main lobby previously. 11 starts to put the Twitch drones in over that side, so may look to clear the utility to allow them to do that again. But T1 seem less focused on that side of the map than they have done previously.
We've got that Mozzie on side to help calm those down a little bit. Lugator being naded from below, I think, but not quite being finished off, as we've seen several times. 5 HP, all that remains on him. Trying to catch him a second time, but don't know which side he's on and will not be able to find him. That would have been a big kill to come through for them to remove the smoke so early on, who could be pivotal in this defence.
It's really not going to take much to finish him off, though. Shin looks to make the challenge onto the man that he knows is positioned out on the rappel. Likely to be Crazy Boy again, and this time he finds a beautiful headshot to open things up onto Shin, and this is not starting to go Fav's way. 1.5 minutes through the round. We are at the halfway mark, and the advantage lies with T1 at the moment. The only thing they don't have, Des, is much presence inside of the map right now.
They're starting to work on that. Now they've got that long angle down the corridor. It restricts the defenders massively. They can't easily rotate through unless, of course, you're Clash and you've got a wonderful bulletproof shield in front of your face. But Fanxi might be changing that here, looking to push his way up towards the white stairs and work his way forwards. 11, smoke coming out, and now looking to march his own way forwards. And look at where Taipon's got to. Like, he's pulled himself back out towards square here. They are too scared of playing in that white corridor right now, it feels like, and have said, let's get ourselves back. Fanxi on a big flank, though. He's coming up towards square. If he hits them on the flank here and gets a couple of kills, that could be huge. But it's Arakazi to strike. A 5 versus 2 for T1. 50 seconds to play. Surely FAV don't stop this.
Legator well aware of the potential flank there, but on such low health, he just can't make too many challenges, and that's exactly why. Shut down by Fanxi on the slow peek around the janitor door. He's going to get himself the kill, and T1, they get themselves the attacking round that might just push them towards a win here on Bank.
Still a mostly same take as well, coming in from the west side. Just a bit more onus to press forward and be aggressive, I think. A bit more window play, a little more variety to keep the side of FAV guessing. Now they get to go onto the attack, and the site choice for T1 is going to be Teller's Archives. We saw this back in round 9. It was a FAV win coming off the back of that, so I'm a little bit nervous. But if T1 have shown us anything throughout this map, first time they try something, it fails. Second time they try it, they make it work.
The adaptation has been good. As I've said, we've seen that, you know, with their attacks as a whole as well. The first couple, for me, a little bit disjointed, but then, no, we started to get it working. They found the glue, they got it all stuck together, and they started to make things happen, just as we've seen in that last round there. So once again, it is advantage T1, and once again, they have got that opportunity to put a big win on the board. It's not going to save them from relegation. That's not something they can do at this point, but confidence-wise, team mentality, wise, winning is a habit, and what better habit to get into when you are heading into a relegation battle at the end of the stage. So T1, they will be looking for absolute certain to get this one over the line, and just to spoil the party as well. You know, that's what this is about. These are competitive players, competitive teams, and they want to win every minute of every round that they're in.
Sorry, I should have looked back at my stats a little bit better then, to be fair. It was FAV, who were on the defence of this site, formerly, on attack of this site back in round number 3, not round number 9. That was when we saw T1 on the attack. And round number 3 also went the way of T1, so they have already won this one. From FAV, it was a little bit slow. They lost 2 in on their initial push. It was the 2 versus 4 that did go down to a 3 versus 1, but ultimately quite decisive coming out for T1 overall. So the owner's adaptation comes onto FAV, and they're the ones here who said, right, forget about playing the book that we had before, bring out the Flores that worked so well for us in rounds 5 and 6, and we saw that adaptation, right? They had 2 nades throughout most of their attack in half, and once they bought the Flores, they had plenty more options to remove things like the Evil Eyes, the bulletproofs, the shields that we spoke about before.
Same approach once again. We've got the Flores and the Ace just outside of the square skylight door there. The Rotero drone is going to go in and just open up a rotation, this time in the soft wall. Yet another use of those Rotero drones. Going to open that up just to try and clear out any top floor roamers. FAV Gaming know that they need to make sure that players like PJH is dealt with. He's been an absolute nightmare quite often when he has been on the defence. He's just been so unpredictable, popping up in the strangest of locations at times and getting very important kills. And for PJH, it's quite often a 2k, a 3k. He comes in and just manages to have a really big impact in the mid-round. But for the time being, FAV are clearing out the defensive utility from above, using those vertical angles. They haven't managed to spot out any of the T1 players yet and do any damage, but certainly reasonable progress so far at the halfway mark.
PJH dropping well away, hasn't got the boss G, so maybe isn't full of beans like he was before, playing back on the K1A now as well, so more looking to be in those longer range engagements, I would imagine, than looking to rock up close with the boss G on the roam. Wasn't on the top floor when FAV came pushing in, so they took control of that pretty fast inside 60 seconds. They see the man, and this is the problem. You give them this free control, they open up so much of the vertical space, you're basically forced to step off site, and that is when FAV can set up this pincer and wait for you to step into their waiting arms.
Just looking to hold the angles now, FAV onto that door. PJH, as I say, he can just pop up in the most unpredictable of spots, Des, and he's behind the desk. Look at the trigger discipline. He just waits for his moment, almost misses his shots. Shut down. Unfortunate for PJH there that Taipon didn't follow Legator over the desk. That's what he was hoping for, but it didn't happen. But nonetheless, Des, he took the thermite down. I don't know, Taipon, he doesn't have any Selma charges left, so there is no hard breach left available for this team. 14. They're going to have to go through single doors if they want to get in and get the diffuser down. Arakaze from the main stairs gets a kill onto Typon and drops the diffuser down. That's 3 versus 2 though as Shin. He manages to just bring that advantage back in the favour of FAV.
Can they do this one? Oh, Shin again! The 3K in the round. Massive round coming in. RX for Arakaze on the rotate. Do they know? Is there a flank drone? There's the bleepers that are going to give it away as to where he is. He pushes in, sees the man in the plant going down, but the cover is there. Shin with a colossal 4K in round 14 to make this go all the way to 15, Ace.
It's not like us, Des.
Not at all.
Not like us to see round 15 at all, is it? I mean, what I love about this game the most is that the entire talent team will be sweating their predictions right now because we've gone in both directions and we've now come down to 7 apiece. Final round of overtime. And after the last 2, who's going to win this? I've no idea. T1 have a great round 13. FAV have a great round 14. All bets are off right now.
There was a game, I want to say it was G2 Kavana that went all the way through in extra time and we were like, it's hard to be smug about a prediction that goes all the way to 15. It comes that close down to 1 round.
Toss of a coin.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Flip a coin and you'll see what walks away as the winning outcome. But again, I've got to stress, what a huge round coming out of Shin. A player that we wouldn't normally celebrate. We're normally talking about Afro. Number 2, they're the players that are always at the top of our minds and normally the leaderboard. But rounds like that, massive clutch ones, is exactly what you want to see. The same as Al back in round 1, it was all down to Typon doing hard work for them. Some really big rounds coming out of players on the side of FAV.
Certainly was, and this last round, it's going to take some big players. It's going to take some big performances. It's going to take some big nerves from one of these
I love the timeout just before the last round as well, because it means you might get a spicy choice or 2 coming out.
It piles the tension on.
Oh, you get to have a good chat, and you never know if you're going to get...
Slows it down.
It's like taking a penalty in football. Which way do you go? Left, right, centre?
It's that the timeout before the last round is that moment where a player's walking from the halfway line up to the goal to take that shot. It's that moment, isn't it? It's that tension, that pressure. And Des, knock.
Who's there?
Knock.
Fantastic. What I love about this is that's their guess and gamble that FAV are going to 6-pick in something like the Echo. They've done that in Garage a couple of times already throughout the game and just think, well, they rely so heavily on the information coming out of someone sat on a bulletproof cam, of someone playing in behind the Yokais and the Evil Eyes, let's not forget, that let's see if this nut can really do some work. PJH is the man we have followed all game long, playing on that vigil, seeing what kind of terrors and horrors he can bring out. Here, it's definitely a gamble. It's a very similar style, of course, the same gadget, hides away from cameras unless sprinting, in which case you see a little bit of distortion where the knock is, but with those 2 nades on side, he could spell disaster for this FAV side.
PJH, honestly, the more this game goes on, Des, the more this stage goes on, I am becoming a huge fan of PJH. If you could have picked one player out of all 10 in this lobby that was going to bring a little bit of an outside pick like knock in the final round of overtime, it would have been PJH, and I love that we're seeing it out of him. Let's see if he can just put that to work and get the round over the line and the match over the line for T1, because it's going to take a big effort from somebody.
Let's see how it shapes up then. As expected, you'll see him heading down in towards Garage. It's where, although it's not, of course, on the Garage site, here we are on Tellers and Archives. It is normally here where you would see a cam set up and then watching. Now, they should have an idea this is coming at some point. They should see that his Hell presence runs out, will have a chance to hide away and tuck himself in and go for the recharge. He's got the drone in downstairs in case someone is lurking and they've spotted the drone out. So, they know something is afoot. They're just not quite sure it's going to be a knock.
Do they know what? That is the question. PJH, he's just creeping up.
Oh, this is clever.
The double barricade is going to prevent him from moving in sneakily, but no, he's going to just prone and move underneath. Is he going to get him? Afro, he's there ready to make the challenge.
Oh!
He sees him! A knock like this, PJH, that is not going to work. He gets shut down on the main stairs.
Oh, stop it, you. I love it, but that's what FAV want as well. The 5 versus 4. The man, the wild card, the difference maker, taken off the board, and now it falls to the likes of 11, Crazy Boy, Arakaze, all 3 having fantastic games at different points throughout this one. They're going to have to clutch it out and do something special in these final 90 seconds. But we've seen T1 stall out on the attack so many times that clock runs down to 0. They've still got so much work to do even here. And I'm wondering, can they do it against this army of 5 on the side of FAV?
Diffuser has been left down. Don't worry about that too much. It's been left outside.
It's not being dropped somewhere
random. It's not been
random.
dropped. It's been left purposefully, but it needs to be collected. That's something else to remember. It's just another piece in the puzzle. They can't push onto site until they go back out there. It's another 5-10 seconds of a job to do that, so they just need to be very aware of that. No kills coming in as of yet for T1. FAV able to keep themselves pretty safe at the moment inside of site, keeping it locked down and just not really giving T1 any opportunity to spread their wings to breathe any real life into this round.
I'll give them this one. They were on lockers earlier on. They played really far back and played passively.
You've got to hit that. You've got to hit that.
Banksy might have just thrown that one away because that was the pick they so sorely needed. 30 seconds to play in the 5 versus 3. It's looking dire for T1. But I mentioned these 3 players earlier on. 11, Crazy Boy, Arakaze. They're the 3 that can make something happen. But against all 5, I'm not so convinced. It's 11 with a long angle. They're looking out towards lobby to try and push in here and make something happen. There's no rat player Vigil waiting to upset them, but you have got number 2 holding out to go for a flank. Arakaze finds one. Number 2 on back into second. Coming in for Arakaze. The plant's going down. Can they see him? Sees him in the back corner. Gets the spray! And FAV get the win in round 15. It was close from start to finish, but the Japanese team walk away the victor.
So close a game, but ultimately FAV able to make a withdrawal from T1's account on bank, and they're able to close it out for the 2 points in overtime. But boy, they will remember that one tomorrow because they will be exhausted.
Such an exciting game. Look at the scoreboard.